TZ confuser. Okay. No video, no mic, connecting with different device, 1 min. Okadoka. Here comes Sam. There's Sam.
Hey, Barry. Hey, Sam.
Sam is going to disconnect and reconnect on a different device. He's on a crippled device at the moment.
Okay. Crippled device.
He says no video, no mic, connecting with different device, 1 minute.
Well, this is a device that's partially useful.
Yeah.
Hello, Eric. You're muted.
You haven't turned on your mic yet there, Eric.
Yep, thanks. Okay, hello.
The music man.
So before I forget, Eric, the answer to your question is about imagine the musical world without the MTV and YouTube.
Yeah, okay, that's what I grew up with, right? Before all that.
78 RPM records, monophonic, short
Yep.
and scratchy.
Nice. Hi, Sam.
There's Sam. He's on a real
Connecting
machine.
to audio.
Okay, can you hear me now? Testing,
Yes.
testing. Okay,
See
cool.
you and hear you. You're in a superposition.
What is
I'm
TZ?
contemplating.
What is
It's two
TZ?
of my content.
What is TZ confuser?
It
Where's
means I
TZ?
don't know what time zone I'm in.
Oh, time zone confuser. Okay. Are you still in India?
Yes, I am. It is late Sunday. Let's see, what is it? It's 8:30 p.m. Sunday night. And I understand it's 8 a.m. on Sunday in the Pacific time zone.
Yep.
That's why I'm confused. It's even after 2 weeks. I've been here more than 2 weeks, and I'm actually 1 week, actually 6 days away from getting on a plane to get back to the United States. So it's less than a week. Less than a week.
Wow, it's a long trip. World
Yeah.
junketeering.
It's quite intense, and it's no vacation. I mean, I attend meetings during India time zone. I attend meetings during California time zone. The last one was Friday afternoon, California time, about 2 p.m., which was like 2:30 a.m. Saturday morning here. So
Yeah.
I took a nap before I got onto that meeting. And then after that meeting, had been sleeping until just about 2-3 hours ago.
Oh, wow.
So
Wow.
still recovering. Anyway, enough about me.
But you're staying healthy. You haven't come down with any regional diseases or anything.
No, in fact, like I said, because I know that my history is every time I come to to India, I gain weight because I eat too much food. So I'm actually being much more careful about that this time. Yeah, I've had no gastro problems, no digestive problems, nothing problems here in any of my trips, actually.
That's very fortunate.
You stay away from the water sources, you have bottled water, and then I think you get by. That's enough.
Yeah,
Sam, do you spend
never allow holy water in your tummy. I got that.
Yes. It will be state shifting, I'm sure. I was just curious, any of you, the rest of you spend time in India?
Yeah, I did.
Never.
I was in Calcutta the day that they bombed Bombay.
Ooh.
Remember?
They being who? The British?
The Pakistanis or something like that.
Pakistanis, oh.
Yeah. They bombed the Bombay and I landed in landed in Calcutta. It's the same time that they bombed Bombay. And everybody's calling and saying, no, the bombing is in New York. I'm in California. I'm good. I was there for 10 days for an event that is in a temple that almost like a Disneyland there. You know, everywhere else in India is so dirty, so terrible. But the place I went is a United Religious Initiative gathering where I have about 400 people, have about 140 different religions from all around the world. We gather for about 10 days, then a lot of fun, a lot of learning, a lot of networking, and yeah.
How long ago was that?
Oh, 2008, something like that. I don't remember. Yeah. Anyway, my most memorable event was cross the Ganges River, back and forth, and then there was so I wandered off my Holy Land, my Disneyland place. I wandered off because I saw smoke and there's a lot of people going there to listen to lectures of a teacher. So I went there. And I went there for 3 or 4 days, and then this young kid invited me to go into their hostel, or what they call the ashram, and show me the upstairs, downstairs to see all the God and everything. And then the next thing he knows that he offered me holy water. So he tell me to put my hand in a certain posture, and then he put 3 drops of holy water and I soup it in my mouth. and he showed me around the place, ashram, and on the way back to my walking back, so about I would say maybe about a couple thousand meters, I can feel my stomach and it's already making noise. And I tell you, I was in diarrhea for about 4.5 days. I had the best antibiotic with me because my nurse prepared me for this. I thought I only need 1 or 2, and then after that I go see a doctor, and he said, "Yo, you need to take 3 all at the same time." I say, "Okay, 3 is fine. And once I take 3, I'm good." That was a holy water experience. Other than that, it was a wonderful experience. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, many memorable experience, many connections around people around the world. Yeah, a lot of music, a lot of dancing, a lot of ceremony, a lot of blessing, a lot of everything. Yeah.
How did you fly from London or Frankfurt or Singapore?
It was Germany, so I don't remember. I think it's like 10 hours to Germany and then 10 hours to Calcutta.
Wow.
Like that was
Yeah.
like okay, that's enough flight. Is it 12 hours or 10 hours? I forgot. Yeah, it's like no
Yeah.
more Indian trip.
I have 2 hours from Pune to Delhi, then about 10 hours from Delhi to London, then about another 9 or 10 hours from London back to Seattle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would it be easier to fly
When
the
it
other
goes
direction?
when it goes well, I can do that in 30 watch hours. And if it's not going well, it takes about 36 watch hours. So depending on delays and transfers and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have thought a flight over the Pacific would make sense to get back to the West Coast.
It was the same. So almost the same distance.
It
for
really
me.
is.
Yeah, because it took me, what was that? 8 hours to go to Korea. If I use the Korea route, 8 hours to Korea and another 8 hours from Korea to, let's say, Taiwan or Singapore, right? So, but the direct flight from here, from San Francisco to Singapore is 12 hours, 13 hours. So I'm probably going to make this trip end of the year. I'm not sure I did tell you about this. So what happened was a couple of days ago, my cousin say that the newspaper is sort of like the biggest newspaper in Malaysia. They have 100 years anniversary. And he asked me if it's okay for him to nominate me to be the distinguished, accomplisher, whatever, overseas or whatever. So I said, fine, we'll play with it. I know that's a way that he get me to go back to Malaysia. Haven't been there for 4 years after pandemic, right? So like, okay, go there. So there's the ceremony, what do you call that? The ceremony is on December 8th. So I need to go there on the Friday, Saturday night, fly all the way there. And let me say this to you. When the time I start packing to the time I delivered to the bedroom I was sleeping is 35, 36 hours.
Yeah. I did find out that now there is a direct flight from San Francisco into Mumbai or direct to Delhi. And that's only about 16 or 16 and a half air hours.
Yeah.
But, that's a brutal span of time.
Depends. If you're in the first class and have a young lady with you, you're good. You said
Neither
that's
of
not
those
enough time. I need more.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything that's over 12 hours, anything that was say more than 8 hours, I need a business class. I need to lay down. Otherwise, my blood pressure go to the roof. Yeah. Too high.
I went to Israel once, and yeah, it's hard to sleep on a plane. Yeah.
Yeah, suffering. Yeah, it's like,
And they had the people who smoke went to the back of the plane at the time. So you kept catch a whiff of it.
And sunrise over the Atlantic.
Yes.
And they get up and they do the morning minion.
Right. Yeah, so this news about Israel's hitting me hard.
It's
It's
very strange. That was completely unanticipated. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no inkling that was coming.
right. So where's the intelligence to find that?
That's
Yeah.
going to be a big question. How did they drop the ball on that?
I once have a coworker in AMD back in the 86, 87. He's a nice guy, sitting right next to my cubicle. I had many conversations about this, and after my conversation with him for at least 10 to more times, have a deep conversation. And I mean, we got nothing to hide. We just really go at it and talk about how you feel and everything. And my conclusion at that time was that there's no hope in getting out of this because the hatred is so deep. There's no logical doesn't get into the brain anymore. It's like, think of it that like you having faith. This is faith on steroid. They're so deep in that I can't even explain it. Yeah, Sam.
This is why this group to me is so important. This conversation group to me is the only group where I can explore with other like-minded people, whether or not rationality, critical thinking, scientific thinking, non-belief based thinking, true model-based thinking, true search for truth, true back and forth with honest disagreement, with ideas competing on their merits. I got to tell you, that's rare. That's why I value this group so much. And that's why when I cannot attend, I miss it so much. To me, that's why this group exists for me. So to be able to pursue the conflicts where people are acting and, deciding and believing based on dogma or autocracy or religion or, woo-woo or, downloading from the universe, I'm really, really, really interested in how do we get to sanity from that? Or is it possible? Now, what I'm hearing from Sam is there's some reason to believe it may not be possible. So if it's not possible, then what's our course of action? What do we need to do, or do we do anything? Over.
I'll make a prediction, and it's a sorrowful prediction. Prediction I'm going to make is that Israel will depart from a foundation principle of the Old Testament. No more than an eye for an eye, no more than a tooth for a tooth. Retaliate if you must, but retaliate at less than par. Ain't going to happen. They're going to retaliate at way more than par. And that is a departure from mathematical systems thinking.
Guaranteed chaos.
You're going to retaliate at way more than par.
But could they even measure that? Like, what is par in this case?
Number of deaths and number of casualties.
Number of metric.
There are going to be more deaths and more casualties in retaliation than there was initially. And that amplifies, that puts the gain of the feedback loop greater than 1. Any of the feedback loop greater than 1 is mathematically unsound.
How do we feel about funding that?
There's a different perspective I want to share with you guys, so that this is important to me, because I once walking in the mountains of Santa Cruz in the, very special spiritual ceremony with someone that she was the head of the Santa Cruz Health Department. And she's very smart. She's from Boston, from Massachusetts, right? So it's very smart. I have a great conversation. So we have walked for about an hour. We have deep conversation again. And it's one thing I want to know is also, if it's okay for me to ask, is that what about people that have drug addicts? Is there hope for them? Because I was told that there's hope, and I was told there's not hope. It's almost like quantum computers. Like, I have confusing data. But she's the authority, and she deals with a lot of drug addicts. She said, is there hope for people to have drug addict? And what she said was, I will never forget it. It's probably 20 years ago, this conversation. And she said to me that, I hate to tell you this, as a Buddhist, I wish there is a hope for helping them, to get back to track and all that stuff. Like, he said the data that he see, nope. They always go back. They always,
Recidivism.
it's a doom, it's a curse, it's whatever you want to call that. It's hopeless. So it really did break my heart that day, right? And it bothers me for many, many years. And the last, of course, like I said, the conversation about 20 years ago. So I've been observing, I was trying to disprove her, and I tried to disprove her. I have some data, but I'm not conclusive. But I see there's hope. So from that, I go back to my friend from Palestine and have the conversation. I still think there's hope. I'm not giving up yet. Those are a couple of things in my life that I'm holding on to, and I still see even a little spark. I still think there's hope. I think it's about, worst thing can do is that everybody die. So the new generation may have a lesser watered down emotion about this and all that stuff. So I hope one way or the other, there's always hope. Like, what's his name say? The mentor of Martin Luther King said that all life effect is temporarily. If you take the timelines 1,000 years, like whatever it is temporary, even the Israel's incident.
Okay,
So
but think about this. The kids who are growing up now during these attacks, when they become teenagers and then 20s and 30s, how are they going to believe? You really have to go back to the mindset. So like the people attacking now, when did they grow up? The 90s, 2000s, and what were they being taught? Because it's really a lot of nurture more than nature, I think. And I think their understanding is possible between select groups of people. If you bring a group of Israelis and Palestinians together and give them enough time, it's maybe possible for them to understand each other, but that on a large scale, that's not going to happen, because then you get into political forces and economic pressures and everything else.
We have I have many meetings with Palestinian, religious leader, and and the other side as well. And we also bring kids to stay in each other's home, like the way that Gandhi did and all that. In other United Religious Initiative, and we have many classes that conduct together, have both parties in the same classroom. And like you say, small scale, we got it. Large scale.
Yeah, but a kid who's getting orphaned right now, 10, 20 years from now, that's all they're going to think. The Israelis killed my parents,
Yeah.
You know the Hebrew word for Palestinian?
Not sure.
When I was in Israel, I heard them refer to the Palestinians using the Hebrew equivalent term, Hebrew cognate for Palestinian, and it's an old biblical
Philistine?
Philistine.
No? It is? Okay.
The way you say Palestinian in Hebrew is Philistine. And when I heard that, I thought, are the Palestinians the lineal descendants of the Philistines of biblical times? No, they're not. They use the same name, but they're not the same ethnic group. The Philistines of the biblical era are gone. but they still use the word Philistine, which has a very pejorative connotation.
Right. What are
If
the
you use it in-
connotations of that word?
Say that again.
What are the connotations and implications of that word? I've heard it be negative as well.
Yeah, a Philistine is basically a very pejorative characterization of an antagonist. You can maybe look it up and get a better, you know, narrative definition. But to call somebody a Philistine is basically to say that they're a very evil, bad, despicable person.
But was it an Arab tribe from a specific region at one point?
At one point, the Philistines were the name of an ethnic group in biblical times.
Mhm.
They did occupy, that part of the Middle East. But the Philistines of that epoch, that DNA lineal ethnic group, as far as I know, died out. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that the modern day Palestinians have no connection
Yeah, it's just
to
the land
ethnic
was
Philistines of the biblical era.
yeah, it was just the land was named Palestine at the time,
Yeah.
and yeah, before Israel got created.
Yeah, the English call it Palestine, which is the Anglicization of Philistine.
Yep. Now, see, I'm Jewish, but I did take some time, like, to watch a movie from a perspective of Palestinians, and I get it. I could see their anger, and like their cherished possession is the key to their house. That to save that key to a house that used to be in Israel. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I will support Israel as a Jew, but I'm not sure the extent of my support.
I'm not in favor of getting the gain of the feedback loop in violence bigger than one.
Mhm.
Getting the gain of the feedback loop in a violent practice bigger than one is insane.
Yeah. So, like, if it's humanitarian aid, like, am I biased to Israeli humanitarian aid? There's definitely a bias in my mind that I'm aware of now. Yeah.
Violence is not the answer.
Yeah. But there's no other answer. So the violence is the only one right now.
Violence is the popular but foolish, unwise, unbecoming answer.
Yeah, I was watching.
Making and regional rational thinking and model-based reasoning and civil discussion and civil disagreement fail.
It's also like nations are acting as human. It's various groups of people, but the nation is deciding policies and military maneuvers. So it's at a point now, until this de-escalates and people sit down and negotiate, nothing's going to happen. But Israel doesn't, I don't think Israel can negotiate with terrorists if they're calling these attacks terrorism, and they're comparing it to our US 9/11. Yeah, Netanyahu says it's a war. Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, don't think of this as a violence. Don't think even. Let's go down to simple facts. You have a home that's your ancestors' home, and someone come in and you let them in, stay in your house, and then before you know it, they chase you out. And then take your possession, take your home, take your ancestors' home, and now let you stay in the house behind your home, regular home. They give you a small piece of land or something along that same line. That's the narrative that's going on.
Okay.
So from my perspective, it's like, okay, yes, I'm occupying your home and I got you to get to stay in the backyard. So now the question is, I have no place to go. I wish I had a place to go, but I don't have a place to go. And we have a lot of people in here, in this house here. What can I do? So of course the violence will happen, and you go throw rocks at my windows and all that stuff. From that perspective, again, I'm toning it down to simple one person's home and one person says, like, the more you can simplify it, the simpler you can see the answer. You cannot find an answer in the simplest form of mathematical equation, You can solve problem in a big picture. So it's like, I mean, if you add violence and add all the things, all it does is complicate things. But the simple fact is, the bottom line is this: if all the Israelis move out of Israel and give back the land to Palestine, we're done. The question is, can we build an island or someplace out of thin air?
Yeah, see, when it gets to the level of dogma or like really unshakable belief, then and it's orthodoxy, that's when the problem starts. So if people aren't going to back away from that, there are more moderate opinions, and I could say the middle is where you can have discussions, but at the extreme ends you can't have the discussions.
Yeah.
And that's where the rockets fly, and the rockets are indiscriminate sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, that's the narrative they have. That's the historical facts, or whatever you want to call that. You can't change that. So like, if you can't change that, you cannot move away. And that's why I'm stuck. I'm stuck with,
Yeah, but there's also perceptions. So we're probably not seeing everything on the news that's really happening. And I hear stories that Israeli bodies being dragged through the streets. I don't know if that's happening. I think it is, but I can't verify it myself. And the videos these days could be faked.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter what happened, they're desperate. So they have like, you do this to me, I'm going to do this to you, an eye for an eye. So that's what's happening right here. And it's like I say, with my conversation with my office mate, I made a conclusion that, my God, like,
Yeah. Now, there may be something that sparked it, and it may have been like an Orthodox belief, like trying to get back the Temple Mount area or something like that going on. My rabbi said we absolutely do not agree with that as Reform Jews. So the question is, was that could have been a spark, but whatever, they're at war now. Now, how Israel is going to manage it politically and militarily, and they're going to do that kind of thinking. Okay, how do we have some effect with minimal casualties? We warn these people, we're bombing your area, get out. Yeah, but then it's tricky. And now you need military strategies to get to a ceasefire situation. So who could do that? Who could negotiate like that?
Oh, Yitzhak Rabin isn't around anymore. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So who's there now? Yeah. And then if there's more behind it, like if Iran is involved in supplying weapons, there's probably more to this.
I mean, your neighbors stand up for you because you have a right to have your home back. So again, narrative, bring it down to the simplest form, and that's the narrative they have in their head. I can understand what's happening. It's like, okay, you run out of rocks, your neighbors give you more rocks from this house,
Somebody has to stand up and say, Klaatu Barada Nikto.
What's that?
Who recognizes that? Klaatu Barada Nikto. Nobody. Okay.
I need help.
There was a classic movie, I think the 1950s, called The Day the Earth Stood Still. I think it was the name of the movie. And it was starred Michael Rennie as a alien and a robot named Gort. And it's an allegory. It's basically a New Testament allegory, because Michael Rennie is a human appearing alien, and he's a carpenter by trade. And it's all about military violence, because when the spaceship lands, and Michael Rennie, is a very genteel person, and he has a very lovely relationship with the human female character in the story. And the military comes out with all their weapons to shoot down the spaceship. And the hope, and so Gort, the robot, comes out with his X-ray vision. He basically melts all the weapons. He just aims his eyes, and it doesn't hurt the soldiers, just their weapons just disintegrate.
Yeah, it's like what Superman does. He rounds up all the weapons, brings them
Right.
into the
So
front.
you basically get rid of all the weaponry, but not the humanity. You render them militarily impotent,
Mhm.
which is a great concept. If you could just get rid of all the weaponry.
Well, what if-
I have imagined this power. I pray for this power, but I still don't have it yet. I'm waiting for the delivery from FedEx.
Okay, now what if everyone could agree we're going to fight this war in cyberspace? No one's going to die. You have a game, you shoot each other up in the game.
It's called the Olympics. They invented the Olympics, and all sports and
They thought-
chess were invented to have synthetic warfare where
Wow.
nobody really dies.
Okay.
Sports and chess and all these games and competitions were all a synthetic war. Chess is a war game.
Right.
And the Olympics was in lieu of having real battles where people really die.
And the game of Go, you could do all kinds of strategies to entrap your opponent. Yeah.
But our species is constitutionally constructed that we simply have this drive, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, that if anybody hurts you, you're entitled to hurt them back at greater than par.
Yep.
And every single religion of the world, every single theology of the world said, no, that is an idiotic, dumb concept. Get rid of it. Get rid of the concept of retaliate at more than par. But our species simply can't learn that lesson.
Okay. Could you do a blockchain that determines par and equal retaliation? Can you measure that now?
I mean, from a systems theoretic,
Mhm.
I consider myself an anthropologist from Mars.
Sure.
I really come down on the planet from Mars, and I'm observing humankind, Homo sapiens, and how our culture and our civilization behaves. And I scratch my head and I go, holy shamoly, what a bunch of idiots. What a bunch of morons.
Yeah.
What a
And
bunch
then-
of fools.
And then if they kill a child, is that more? Yeah. Go ahead, Sam.
How to get from that to decisions and actions and systemic change. Yes, we are a bunch of morons, but we need to say, what is the next step?
Education,
Well-
enlightenment. And the thing is that to become enlightened is to evolve out of that kindergarten, middle school frame of mind. And how the hell do we get our species, Homo sapiens, evolved to a level of enlightenment that's not idiotic like kindergarten and middle school? And the answer is, I'm not seeing it happening.
Right. But don't you realize, and I can't prove it, but I suspect it's a systemic but genius move from those in power to erode the quality of education so that people don't have the ability to think critically, who then just obey, who then just
Ronald Reagan.
Who then just fight mindlessly, who then just react, who then let the emotions just rule their actions, who then just think about poking somebody else when they get poked, just like you said. That erosion of thinking and education has been very effective, and it's been going on for decades. Think about what's happening in Florida with banned books and other states. There's about 9 or 10 or 12 other states where these people are very active. And oh, by the way, it's only a very small number of people doing it across these multiple states. And yet they have influence because people don't fight back. That's how stupid we are.
Yeah, I was in a library. I saw an exhibit. They had like yellow tape and saying, caution, these books are going to be banned. Yeah. And I looked at the books. I mean, it didn't really make sense to me. They have descriptions of why each book is being banned. Yeah.
You don't even need to look at the books to know that this doesn't make sense.
Right. So they're suggesting, okay, go to this website. I mean, what is the action? You got to get thousands of people to get on a petition, and like Yeah, what level does at each state? That's yeah. Yeah, see, we're trained that okay, what is our recourse? We protest, it becomes a power thing again, that you're protesting at what, a state agency, and you clash with yeah, it still becomes a war.
Okay, so this is politically incorrect. We've been going for centuries, perhaps, maybe not quite that long, but at least, we believe everybody is treated equal and everybody has the same inalienable rights. And I actually think that's stupid. It's not the best way to create a good society. Most people don't care about what they believe. Most people can't even justify what it is they believe. Most people can't engage in a civil discourse about disagreement longer than about 30 seconds. So the ability to, vote, regardless of how stupid you are and how idiotic you're thinking, should be revoked. I think the people that make decisions need to be able to make decisions based on, let's say, clear objectives. I don't say everybody has to have the same objective, but your objective should be clear and your decisions and actions should be in accordance with what you believe and what you think you're trying to do. And that you should be accountable for yourself. And if you cannot, you should have at least two friends who can say, that's bullshit, Sam. You say this, but you do that. That's bullshit. You should be able to have friends that do that. I'm referring to myself, by the way. Okay, I'm not saying Sam.
It's okay. I'm so grateful you do that. So I'm not sure how do I fit this in perspective. I see there's a lot of, I have multiple deep theory about how to remove violence. One of them is fairness. So it's like you have a piece of pizza left, and then two persons need to have the pizza. So the fairest, the rule is one person cut, the other one pick. That's simple as that.
Right.
Same thing with all the violence in the world. I mean, say this is one way to deal with it. So like Israel, you get to decide where you want to draw the line. I get to pick, and I tell you, before you know it, in a split second, the violence go away. That's because that's the fairest thing.
So you could code all that, and things can be judged by code. Then, if that's where I see you're going with it. The thing is, will people accept that code? Like the founders, they came up with a Declaration of Independence and a Constitution and Bill of Rights, and then the states accepted, okay, we're going to go by this.
Yep.
It's a social contract. Now, I believe that the people have changed a lot since that time, and especially since the Civil War. And that's why we're in trouble now. We do not live the way they lived with the moral fiber that they had at the time. So now, if constitutional law is dying, you need something to replace it. And this is new. This is something new. Like, are you talking about, you have to look around the world. What else do you have? And is it going to be a social credit model? Is it going to be, is it socialism? I don't know what's going to happen.
Right. So again, it's all the same thing with what your question was on the messenger. It's the same thing, it's music. If I'm making the video, is that so the more you're piling up complex things so that it's no longer a pizza that I get to cut, you get to pick the slice. Okay, so that's one layer. The second layer that I think of it, all the violence happen is that when every home has the same cooking ware, every home have the same food, every home has the same car, every home has the same thing. There's no violence because I don't need to steal from you because I have the same damn thing that you have. So it's the equivalent is like middle class. If everybody's middle class, they have less violence, not less stealing, less whatever. And I call it thermal equivalent or financial equivalent or tangible goods equivalent. Once you have that accomplished that, so that's another removing the violence from the world, because there's no need for me to pickpocket or steal from you because I have the same amount of money that you have. So why steal from you? It's like makes no difference. So again, I can stack this on multiple layers. So it's like, okay, well, the question is, how do we implement it in the large scale? How do we implement it when the complexity get piling up on top of each other? It's like, where do I find the equations like beautifully, elegantly written down E equal to MC squared? It's like, I love to find the equation.
Sam.
Yes, Sam.
So while we are trying to come up with new systems that can work, I think the other side, okay, is much simpler, which is let's quickly identify those phenomena that clearly don't work and eradicate them. And those, let's call them felonies, okay, probably easier to arrive at. We probably can agree that mass rape or any rape is bad. We probably can agree that poisoning, community water wells is bad. We can probably agree that shooting people up randomly, is bad. We can probably agree on a number of these other things. Start there. There's probably less disagreement to start there than there is to try and construct these other more complicated systems which require agreement on goals and values and whatever. Start with the badness, which I think we could probably more quickly arrive at.
Okay, now what do you do with the lawyers who get hired to defend the bad people who committed the murders and the rapes? Yeah, so like, do people have
Give them
that?
a voice, but don't give them forever.
Give them what?
Give them a voice, but they don't get forever.
Right, so you have to limit that. So theoretically, a lawyer could prepare a floppy disk with all the evidence, all their arguments. And I saw a movie where they put 2 floppy disks in and it gives you a judgment. Is that what we're
Pretty darn close to that, for law GPT to be able to do that for us.
You're guilty, you're not guilty, yeah.
Another perspective is that another perspective, if I may interrupt you, is that the law of efficiency. If it's any system that's not efficient, it will diminish you. The half-life will take over. So think of it this way. You want to multiply 99 by 99, the simplest solution is you take 100 by 100 and you minus all the things. So it's like, yes, we can take away all the wrong thing. We can take away all the wrong thing, but there are too many to take away. I call them, when you try to avoid something, I should not think of color black, or I should not fly to Boston. There are thousands of places you fly to. You only have 1,000 ways to go wrong.
Yep.
Okay,
so there are shades of gray as well, but so now how many people would agree with Sam that these are absolute felonies?
I'm not saying absolute, by the way. I'm not using the word absolute.
Absolute you're just fine
before anything.
You're
right.
See
how the problem begin now?
Yeah.
As I say.
Okay, we have to first understand what Sam is saying, then we can understand. Yeah.
I think to look for absolutes is stupid, okay? Because that will make you inactive and it'll paralyze you. And in the meantime, bad things continue to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have a lot to learn from quantum computer. Let me tell you this. I spent 4 hours yesterday because I'm trying to figure out what a stupid superposition is and what's a supercomputer and what's a quantum computer like. I spent 4 hours watching as many videos as I can get my hands on. Like, I see if we figure it out. The best I can think of is this way, right? As like a human being, we create wave, okay? When you turn into statistic, you only have one piece of data. You have no superposition. You lost your superposition because you can no longer this or that. But if you are a human being as an individual, you can be this or you can be a good guy, you can be a bad guy. That's about as far as I can go.
I heard that quantum computers access theoretical quantum computers in other multiverses, and then that's how they work.
That even entanglement. It's like, that one I am not ready for it yet. Let's talk about superposition, and it can be 1 and it can be 0 at the same time. It's like, okay, cool, whatever.
Okay, so what is quantum justice? What does that mean now?
Yeah, again, so think of it this way, right? The way that I want to focus on is always that have I ever get myself into the feeling that I'm going to kill someone, literally, Yes, I have. I was so pissed off. I was so angry at that time, especially when I was younger. I remember one time I was on the big table with in the office, my VP would say like, Sam, how do you goddamn, what do you call it? What do you call it? Self-defensive or something along the lines. Like, yeah, oh yes, why you're so defensive? It's like, I was like, what do you mean I am?
Yeah.
Yes,
So
I can be that.
did you see the movie Minority Report?
Yeah, yeah,
Yep. Yeah. Do you want that where there's pre-crime?
yeah.
Where ChatGPT says, "Oh, you're thinking bad thoughts. You might commit a murder tomorrow."
Yeah. So the question is, how could we, it's sort of like people that want to lose weight, you go to the people that never gain any weight versus you go to people that have lost weight 20 times and he's never be able to keep the weight loss. Again, the question is that what's the best approach to get, I was looking for what's the best way to get the hell out, get the people that commit those kind of, I call it power abuse situation.
Right. So there's different scopes here. Like, are you talking your community, your city, or country? Yes. Go ahead, Sam.
Sorry, I have a cashew in my mouth. But that point about Minority Report, that's also not absolute. No, you should not arrest, you should not imprison somebody just because you think they might commit a crime. But it's also probably advised that you have some way to figure out whether this person is likely and be there when something happens. It's just like, if a police department gets 4 calls in a span of a week that a guy's beating his wife, but they can't see it directly, they should still figure out how to catch the person in the act. Okay, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, okay, but it's stupid to just disregard them simply because, oh, I didn't see the crime, therefore I'm going to ignore it.
So
There's
the question,
here.
when do you intervene is the question. Now, if you know people who know this guy, there could be interventions before anything even happens, so they could get the guy help. And then, yeah.
Intervention. We have thousands of years of history that these two cabals like violence towards each other. Talk about intervention. We have patterns throughout history.
Yeah, so they're never going to agree on that spot of land.
This is not a new idea. People have temptation to do unbecoming acts, and it takes a certain amount of discipline to not do something that you're tempted to do that you would regret had you done it. And so you have pre-intervention. Pre-intervention is things like Sunday school, moral education, listening to a sermon or some kind of a guidance from a guru. The people who say, yes, we know that people have temptations to do things that they're going to regret, and let's be aware of that, and let's develop the discipline to restrain ourselves. Pre-intervention has been in our culture since the dawn of moral education and Aesop's fables and all that stuff. It's part of an education, is learning to regulate yourself and discipline yourself against doing things that are regrettable.
And if you think about it in terms of healthcare, wellness, and maintaining good health is way better than just, oh, you're sick now, let me go operate on you.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
The prevention is where
Preventive
you want this.
Yeah.
Preventive
The way we raise our kids nowadays, you allow them to do whatever they want so they can express themselves fully. The cell intervention, I call it when you're under autopilot mode. Whatever you're going to damage, you're going to do, you're going to be autopilot, it's going to override whatever you do. So what I've been teaching for the last, I would say, 2-3 years now, I keep reminding everybody is that anytime you have a judgment about something or somebody, you have a blind spot, watch out. So that if you can catch yourself before you commit your autopilot and commit something, you cannot self-regulate and self-discipline, you lose it. It's a sort of stem of the, so right now, on my Tesla, I set out the safe mode. It's like if there's about 6 cars in front of me, that's in my object. Like when I make a corner and there's somebody standing, you beep at me like crazy. Of course, my passenger gets shocked. I don't, but I appreciate that. So again, the question is, where do you trigger yourself so that I say, watch out, I always, my third grade teacher tell me a beautiful story about the train going through beautiful thing, and the conductor telling me everybody to watch out, and they stick their head out and they got chopped off because of watch out, right? The question is like, when do you watch out for the watch out? And so that you can stop yourself from doing the thing that damaging. So this is, I say, whenever you have a judgment about something or somebody, that's a trigger point. It's like, okay, I need to pay attention here. I stop, slow down, get some perspective that I don't have. Why do I have this judgment? Why do I have these thoughts?
Yeah, so you grew up in an environment that helped you think like that, but people growing up these days, what do they have to draw on if they haven't been educated? Like, I know that I had Holocaust education in high school, and that was very potent, right in your face. So, yeah. Well, okay, so what was I thinking? I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, go on. I'll come back.
The time frame here is, what is the time frame to immediate disaster? In other words, if there's no immediate death or dismemberment or pain or whatever, one has more patience. But if someone's about to walk in front of a bus, you have to take action now before the consequence of the bus hitting the person actually becomes real. There's the judgment call. Were you really, really, really sure that the bus was going to hit that person? Or are you absolutely sure that you need to take action yourself? And you got to make that within the time frame of the scenario as it's unfolding. I'm not sure if I said that well.
Climate change is your classical example, because it's far enough in the future that you can push it off, and yet climate change is upon us. We've got these weather disasters like crazy happening all over the world, these extreme weather events, and they're coming sooner and more intense than anybody anticipated.
Cory Doctorow has a new book about that. Yeah, the Lost Cause is the name of the book.
Yeah, maybe too late. Maybe we're going to suffer a whole lot of floods and earthquakes and fires and whatever.
Yeah, just to clarify, he's referring to people who refuse to give up their old beliefs and reject the notion of climate change as the lost cause in his book. Yeah.
And it could be that, you're going to end up having a diminished biosphere for our species and for other species, and loss of quality of life, and it may be measurable in our in the 21st century.
You just bring up another big topic that I'm always struggle with it, which is, yes, sitting here I can talk about climate change and all that stuff, and like there are things I can do, but when the livelihood of a person depend on the coal factory that generate power to power the whole neighborhood, and they have no way to get out of it, and their livelihood depend on it, that the whole thing is, then how do we help them with it? So another way of saying is that with people like in India was talking about, okay, yeah, you can deal with, you have polluted your country so bad that in America that now it's my turn to pollute my country, because we need the pollution to build the economy and whatever need to be done. So it's like, you done your part once and allow me to do my part. So like, go for it.
So I think for me, this is another side effect that's very, very, very damaging when we build our society around corporate entities. Corporate entities have gotten so much, quote unquote, rights that we now, unfortunately, are so influenced by them and the way they influence our legal structure that now optimizing their rights and their profits supersedes the health of the community or individuals within it, or even the society itself. That is a bad disease. we don't have the ability to take a look at a broad number of wellness KPIs or, metrics or objectives. We only have corporations dictating that, oh, if that act, cost me $4 million, government's got to pay me $4 million, right? Without regard to, oh, did you violate, the cleanliness of that river? Did you actually cause that person's death because that person couldn't get health care? Did you actually, blah, 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 blah. We have an imbalance in who drives the actions utilizing our resources. Our resources is not meant to be for the greater good anymore. I mean, just look at the Republicans. They have done nothing for society in several years. And they kill initiatives that try to do things for people. I'm surprised the 2 trillion dollars got passed. Should have been more than that. But we have influences that are just fighting against social health. And that is a disease. That's why democracy doesn't work. That's why two-party systems don't work. That's why our lobbyists, which is like legalized bribery, doesn't work. That's why, what is this, United something, Citizens United? It's crap. Who the fuck, thought that was a good idea? And there's no way to, get that repealed. Absolutely no way once it's in place. There is a need for revolution, ideally a civil one, but unfortunately it ain't going to be civil because we don't have enough people thinking the right things. Even the violent, revolution is not going to work. We don't have enough right people thinking the right things.
So we're stuck
So-
in a system. Yeah.
The only recourse is to go leave the US and go to some system that kind of works, but that doesn't work on a planetary scale.
Mhm.
That only staves off the inevitable for maybe a decade or two. So you got to think about somebody like Musk who says, well, Earth is doomed, let's go somewhere else. But unless we solve these problems here, it's going to recur.
Yep.
Over. Sorry for the rain.
That's okay. But let's say aliens come to Earth and then the whole world sees we're not alone anymore. Could that mindset?
Kill us like humans and put the golden retrievers in charge.
Yeah, there you go. Well, there are people who believe that, yeah, it goes back to like the movie War Games. The Professor Falcon believed, okay, humans, they had their time for someone else to take over. But while we are human, yeah, there's more to us than our body. There's a soul, maybe. So how do we get along with each other? Is it still possible? At a micro scale, it is. At macro scale, I don't know. Because then you have these country entities. Yeah, it's whoever shouts the loudest. Netanyahu shouts, and Biden whimpers, and I don't know.
I suppose if Darwin were alive today, he'd be turning over in his grave.
Who's that?
I told you so.
If Darwin were
Yeah,
alive today,
right.
he'd be turning over in his grave.
At the same time, also, I want to think that I always appreciate Clinton say something like, no matter what happened here, we still have a decent country. So I say, no matter what happened, we still have a decent world. We are sitting here peacefully, quietly, we enjoying our conversation together. I appreciate that. So let's appreciate what we have. And you got food in your mouth. I appreciate everything that is it's working. So sometimes I call that the black swan scenario. It's like, yeah, we have one 9/11, so we didn't have enough. We don't have a 9/12, 9/13. We have 9/11. Okay, well, one day out of the year, big deal. Okay, enjoy the rest of the year. I don't know what you call that, but that's like, I gotta remind myself, yes, the world sucks, but you know what? I'm very fortunate to be here. Look at all the countries that have earthquake and people die, the bomb that go into Ukraine, everything's having. And thank God that we are where we are, and we are enjoying what we enjoy, and we try to help, but we can only do so much. And the way that I think the biggest contribution, I keep reminding myself, is be the example. If I can suppress my feeling when I hate someone really pissed me off, someone about to kill me, if I can open my arms and say I love you, it may be putting out their knife and their gun. I don't know.
We send everybody to anger management classes.
That's one way to do it. Or be the example. Be the example of how better. Like when people, so the best example I can give you is that when somebody cursing at me, I say, "Oh, thank you so much. You give me so much attention. You care about me so much that you see all my bad things. So could you sit down and tell me more about all the bad things I did?"
Sure.
Yeah. If you can do that.
Countries need anger management. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are archaeologists who could show you places where you see one civilization piled up after another in the same spot. They killed each other off, and yeah.
Like I said, the seed is always in the anger that got triggers. The question is, how do you kill the flame, or should I say diminish the flame, or should I say put out the flame, or not even let the flame to grow?
Okay, let's say one of these countries uses a nuke. Then what happens? Is that gonna like shock everyone?
Well, the thing is, you have to come back to the city. Why do they need the mill? Because they're poor training, because the terrorist ransom. I mean, what's the reason why they use the mills? I mean, I'm more interested in the causation of the why they mill the mill.
Well, yeah, you could go back thousands of years and get different answers of why.
Yep. That's why I say complex layers, depending on psychologies, depending on physical, the biological, evolution.
It's about two brothers, Ishmael and Isaac, right?
The apple that we shouldn't eat.
Yeah, right. So yeah, anything taking religion to extremes, taking the Bible too seriously, that means you'd have to cut out your eye,
The question is, there's no solution for all the problems, and that's why the Tao Te Ching says that do nothing.
Yeah. So, I mean, we could talk about all this, but what's going to happen is Netanyahu and whoever else is in that area, they're going
to do something stupid.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, and the consequences will not mature for another half a generation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, for them, it's about how can I get my power so I can be in a power position. That's a I don't know what you call it, selfish outcome.
And it's intergenerational, because these kids, they're going to teach their kids, hey, we hate these Israelis or whatever. Yeah.
When the leaders having, how do I say this? When the leaders is worried about their own position, their own power, you don't get anything done, because you got second agenda, you got conflict of interest. That's the biggest thing I see all around the world.
Yeah, well, there's short-term thinking here that, okay, it's like they're playing a video game. Okay, we're going to send these missiles, then these missiles will come, we'll get those out. And that's how they're thinking now. And then send these troops here and whatever, these tanks, who knows what.
I mean, again, go back to the pizza example. So it's like, okay, if you come to the example, we draw the line, you get the pick, and we're done. At least we have multiple, we have less land than we used to have. So what? Big deal. At least we can be peace and forever, visiting each other with cakes. But that's not going to happen.
Well, there's a different perspective, even called systems thinking, which says, if we can't manage ourselves at 8 or 9 billion, maybe we need to take ourselves down to 2 or 3 or 1 or half a billion.
Yeah.
An argument as well.
Yeah.
It will happen naturally because we'll have natural famines, because we're not, we have an inefficient ecosystem, an inefficient biosphere, and we can't produce enough food to feed everybody.
And there's strong resistance to that.
Yeah.
People will not accept that.
Be plagues or famines
You-
or
you
whatever,
don't.
floods,
I mean, if it happens, it happens, but the idea of reducing population, it's not going to fly.
I mean, somebody wrote a nightmare story called The Revelation of John, which was basically an apocalyptic
Mhm.
nightmare vision, and it's not that far off from what's potentially possible to happen. You know, death and famine and pestilence and what's the fourth one? I forget.
Yeah. And think about self-fulfilling prophecies. People are going to see events like this happening. They're going to say, "Oh, Revelation's here."
And the fifth horseman of the apocalypse,
Mhm.
disinformation.
Yeah.
By the way, Eric,
Yeah.
it may be happening as we speak. He
Mhm.
may not need to explicitly say, oh, let's take the population down to 1 or 2 billion. It may be that somebody knows, hey, if we do the following 7 things, we could actually stop wars, stop mass disease, stop starvation, etc. Maybe what they're doing is not taking those 6 or 7 actions.
Okay, so
And
people are going to say
this-
that that's a globalist conspiracy. That's what people are going to say to that.
That's right. And I'm saying I can't prove it,
Mhm.
but more and more and more, I don't know if you guys are following, and I still don't know what to believe about these declassified reports about aliens and
Yeah.
UFO phenomena,
Yeah.
and going on for decades.
Yeah.
And who really knows? Are we even allowed to examine that data and really figure out whether there's something there?
They're rabbit holes for the internet. Yeah. Maybe they're
But
purposely
forget about-
created.
Yeah, forget about alien. We can't even handle the border south of us, right? And
Yeah,
I
right.
was told that they're going to bus in thousands of immigrants to San Jose. So
So Biden's going to build a fence now, 20 miles of a fence.
He has
and-
to
Yeah,
spend
good
the
luck.
money by law. By law, he has to spend the money that was appropriated for that function. He doesn't have the authority to divert the money to some other more sensible application.
All right, so just the time came due where he has to spend that money now.
I mean,
Okay.
I guess he could go to the Supreme Court and try to get them to overthrow it, but I think he probably did the calculation to figure out that's not going to happen either.
Yeah, so the system's playing itself out. The time elapsed. Now we have to do this. Yeah.
so what is 20 miles in comparison to all the borders? Like how long our border is again? 1,000 miles?
Yeah. 800. I don't know exactly. but-
Rio Grande, how long is the Rio Grande?
Yeah, and 20
Let's
miles
build
is
a
gonna not put
beautiful
even a
river
dam.
Let's build a beautiful river walk with shops, cafes, coffee shops, souvenir stores.
Yeah, you just stay on your side of the fence.
So this is the opposite of what Israel is facing. Israel have no place to go, but this place they are running away from the violence, and so they come to a place where it's easy to just walk over.
Well, Israel, everybody wants that same spot. It's mine, mine, mine.
Yeah. So that, as I say, it's the opposite of the Israel.
And I could tell you why it's mine if you look at this book. And they could tell you why if you look at that book.
The Fertile Crescent. I mean, the civilization begins in the Fertile Crescent of Mesopotamia, the fertile land between 2 rivers, where the agrarian culture basically took root and created modern civilization, the modern agrarian society.
Yeah, I've been watching The Ascent of Man, that series that was on years ago.
Jacob Bernowski.
Yes.
That was a great series. Great series.
There's a great quote from Jacob Bernowski. He said, "If we are any kind of machine at all, we are learning machines." Back when the philosophers were arguing over whether there was any fundamental distinction between a living system and a machine, and how would you characterize some dichotomy? And Raymond Smoyen says, on the question of whether or not we're any kind of machine, he said, I never realized machines could be so marvelous. The two Bernowski, we're learning machines and never realized machines could be so marvelous.
Look
Of
at the
course,
last couple of years.
cell biology is mechanics. Cell
Mm-hmm.
biology is all about machinery.
Yeah, and there's wars going on in the immune system, and
Right.
yeah. So we're built for war. It's in our blood, literally.
Well, survival of the fittest, yeah, sort of.
Systems are tested by
Right.
stress.
Say again?
Systems are tested by stress.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. What
Systems
doesn't
are
kill you makes you. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
At the same time, unless you have stress, you never learn, right? Unless you have stress, you cannot build muscle.
Yeah, and that was the theory of the United States, like 50 laboratories for experiments. You move to a different state if you don't like their experiment. That was the theory. But now I don't know what to believe these days. Everything. Yeah, and even the young people, I had to have training from HR, and I couldn't believe the way young people think these days. How careful you have to be in what you say now. I had to learn that now. Yeah, so if we can't even talk to each other without upsetting people, yeah, I don't know. So
Well, take a page from Dirac. Dirac gets up, goes to the blackboard, writes an equation with like 5 symbols, and sits back down and never says a word. That equation is on his tombstone.
nice. Gotta look that up now.
Yeah, look up. Just do a search for Dirac's tombstone equation.
Oh,
You'll see
cool.
it.
Thanks.
By the way, that equation essentially predicts antimatter.
Cool.
One of the solutions to Dirac's equation is the is it the antineutrino? It's one of the antiparticles is a solution of his equation.
So is there an anti-Barry court somewhere in an alternate universe?
Oh, I hope so.
So now what?
Yeah.
Oh, the funny thing is that
Wait. I would say the answer is no.
There's no anti-Barry.
If we're talking about possibilities,
Mhm.
probabilities and statistics, and combinatorial and exponential relationships. And if you take the game of Go, how many possible games of Go are there?
astronomical
I've heard it's more than the number of whatever in the universe.
particles in the universe, number of baryons in the universe.
If you're taking a look at whether or not there is the likelihood of an anti-Barry, look at the probabilities that must be surpassed
Yeah,
in order to achieve that.
right.
And I think that, easy hand waving of, oh, well, the universe is infinite, so therefore it must be, is faulty. You're not thinking mathematically at that point. Now, if it truly is possible, then we have to rethink our probabilities and the mechanisms underneath physics.
However, I will give you a counterexample, and you can test this. Adopt your persona, your natural character persona, and enter Wikipedia with that persona, and an anti-Sam Han will appear instantly. Your antagonist will show up like that.
We're arguing two different things. Okay, we have a tight mismatch there, Barry.
Yeah, but your antagonist, if you want to find out who's your antagonist from the point of view of storybook character, adopt any character you like, your natural character or a synthetic one, go into Wikipedia with that character, and your antagonist will show up before you know it.
But we don't need to go to an alternate universe to do that, Barry.
No, well, in
Yeah.
a sense, yeah, metaphorical alternate universe.
Yeah, a lot of people believe we've been living in Superman's bizarro world for the past few years. We never thought it would come to what we've seen.
So it still comes back to me, a point that Sam made, which I'm going to gently disagree with Sam, which is this do nothing guidance. I don't think do nothing is the right guidance. I think we're all little hummingbirds, each with our little raindrops. Now, can't be too attached to your own wing drop and whether it, stops the fire all by itself. I think that's the lesson that's trying to be taught there. But it doesn't say don't do what you can do.
I think the
I think
lesson is
what you can do.
the lesson is that if what you're doing is backfiring, then the optimal thing is to do nothing. If
Yeah.
everything you can think of doing and trying is backfiring, then the optimal thing is to do nothing intentionally.
Right. That's why in my preference, my guidance, okay, is really understand what you think good is, be accountable for that, and review that repeatedly with other people who love you but aren't just going to take your bullshit.
I give you a computer example. VisiCalc, when it first came out, I bought 3 books and tried to learn how to do VisiCalc. I say to myself, well, I'll wait until the easier version comes out. When Lotus 123 showed up, I'll start learning it. Until then, I'm not touching it. So the do nothing is as simple as that you go with the flow. If the flow is right, so like the river is going to flow this way, I'm swimming this way. I'm not going to swim up this way, So when the timing is right, it's like Newton and iPhone, it's the same scenario. The timing is off. You can try everything you want. It's like, it's not going to happen. So it's like the do nothing is like wait for the time to come, It's not about do nothing all the time. It's do nothing until it's your time to do something because it's time ready for you.
Yeah, so I would argue that that's not do nothing.
Well, how would you call that?
There's a word that I often use for this. Why does it not pop up in my brain right now? Hang on one second. I could look it up. It's a word I use all the time, but why do I not recall it right now?
So do nothing until the word comes out. By the way, this is a universal definition of do nothing, Wu Wei, on the Tao Te Ching's, book.
I get it.
Yeah, if you could clear your mind and meditate, the word will come in eventually without you realizing it.
Yeah. Mu. Thing. Oh, thing.
Yeah, it's the MU puzzle from
Yeah.
Deutscher Bach.
A lot of times mu is the optimal answer because everything you do is ill-conceived, ill-thought out, and has unforeseen negative consequences. Well, if you can't think of something that's mutually beneficial for everybody and harmful for nobody, then doing nothing is optimal.
Yep.
Okay, everybody in Israel do nothing. Everybody in Palestine, in Gaza, do nothing.
Right. It's called a ceasefire.
Right.
Whereas intentionally do nothing. Just pause.
Okay, you think my people, you're going to feed them, you're going to take care of them, and make sure they're alive. When you get tired of taking care of them, you need to send it back.
Well, how many people have to die before they realize, okay, it's not working, let's ceasefire? That's the question.
Well, this is why Darwin is still turning over in his grave. It's just not happening. We're just not that smart. We misnamed ourselves. We're not Homo sapiens, we're Homo schleppians.
Yep. Now, in Ascent of Man, in episode 11, he visits Auschwitz, and that's just such a moving episode because he's showing how if you believe you're right and you take it to the extreme, this is what happens. That's what Hitler and Germany did. And so, but those were different times than Israel-Palestine today. The dynamics of the Middle East. Now,
each one wants to drive the other into the sea. The Palestinians want to drive the Israelis into the sea, and vice versa.
Yeah, but there could be other things that flare up around the world as well, and maybe this could spark it. Who knows? Yeah. So where's the prevention? So the UN is meeting. We'll see if they do anything.
Good luck.
Yeah, I don't know.
How many times did they try so far?
Yeah, so it's all.
I think one word that came up is symphony, but I need a better word.
What does the word symphony mean?
We could look it up, but I think There's something about in alignment with the flow of the universe. I'll ask GPT.
There's the word sympathezy that Nora Bateson made up, which I kind of like
That's a more
that.
local
Brings-
phenomenon. Okay, here we go. Syntony is a term, blah, 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 describing a state of harmonious resonance or synchronization.
Yeah,
A state
Ginger
of-
Rogers and Fred Astaire, syntony.
With each other, whether it's in the realm of blah, 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 but, extended to the universe.
Yeah. Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire is an instance of syntony. They dance compatibly, complementary. Don't
To
step
me,
on each other's
it has
toes.
connotations of alignment and coherence and resonance and flow. That's what it all kind of
Yeah.
maps to for me.
To help me to construct the sentence, the phrase properly. So do nothing until what? Do nothing until it's time, or do nothing until is.
Until you
I
can
don't know
find
how to
something
use
to
the
do
sentence,
that's
but-
constructive, beneficial, not harmful to anyone.
Okay, so out of the sentence building business, which I'm not as good at, the Tai Chi reference is when someone's coming at you, rather than fighting them directly, you actually meet them. And because you're going with them, you're able to use only 2 or 3 or 4 ounces of force, where they may be punching you with 200 pounds of force. But if you catch them early enough, you can actually deflect them 5, 6, 7 inches so it doesn't hit your head, and you can actually redirect them appropriately, and you only use a few ounces of force. That is the Wu Wei Tao, Taoism,
Yeah.
Tai Chi notion that I'm really trying to indicate here with this word, syntony. But, meeting something, understanding it, aligning with it, redirecting it, that is effective to me.
It's like an egg catching contest in a fair where somebody tosses an egg and you have to catch it like this so that it doesn't break.
Yeah, you gotta meet the egg and
You've got to
and
basically
follow it
get in
down.
sync with the
Yeah.
egg and just a little slower than it, catch it so it doesn't break. And that's quite a technique to catch an egg.
Hey, use my hands. Yeah.
Okay, so how about an anti-ballistic missile system that catches the missile and redirects it away from the Earth?
Redirect back to your place, the fireplace.
That's right. Turns it back around 180
Yeah,
degrees.
the big cartoon rubber sheet that catches a ballistic missile and echoes
Yeah.
it back.
Yeah, well, if Superman could take
I need to order that from Acme.
yeah, it's an iron dome that takes them into the sun or whatever. But then get a solar flare, and then the Earth gets destroyed from that. But who knows?
So go back to the talk about power abuse. Is that when you're in the power abuse, and I can do this to you because you did this to me, and we get locked into that emotion state where you're locked into it. So, and when you lock into the power abuse, you're capable of power abusing, and that's how you destroy each other.
Okay, now is there ever forgiveness?
You can't
thinking
because you're unless somebody in power is have no conflict of interest, you can never get out of it because of conflict of interest.
Conflict of interest.
Okay, so I'm going to take an alternate systemic view and say, the people that think this way, that want to use these weapons, let's let them kill themselves off.
Yeah, but
It's like when this whole anti-vax phenomena was going, I put in an announcement on the internet saying, if you don't believe in science, if you don't believe in vaccinations, if you don't believe in COVID, I will buy you full fare, single way, one-way bus ticket from wherever you are to Florida or Texas. You take your pick on only 2 conditions. You stay there and you party hard. I made that announcement. As some of you recognize, I actually made that announcement years ago. I got one taker from Michigan. That was it.
did you fund him?
The guy said, I'm in the process of retiring to Florida. I will contact you when I'm ready. And I said, okay, fine, tell me. He hasn't contacted me yet.
Oh,
But he's the one guy that contacted me and said, yes, I'll take you up on it.
he's a little bit too old to party hard.
Well, he was willing to agree to those conditions, though.
Yeah.
So that book
My
that
age, I don't party hard.
That
I'm
point
sorry.
is, let them build their own society. Let them take care of their own healthcare. Let them take care of their own government. Let them take care of their own self-defense. Let them take care of their own education. Okay. The rest of the world ideally moves on. But
I have
let
one
those
word for you,
people
Sam.
basically guide themselves.
I have one word for you: collateral damage.
Hey, they invoke it, they cause it, they suffer it.
Collateral damage.
Are you talking about you?
The problem is that they don't just hurt themselves. Collateral damage is they hurt others who are bystanders.
Yeah,
Crossfire.
clearly.
You get caught in
That's
the
why any
crossfire.
system that works, you got to deal with the sociopathic, the psychopathic elements. And the people who are thinking like, oh, well, I'm going to create nirvana, I'm going to create utopia, we don't have to worry about that, let's not build prisons. That's bullshit. That is not systemic thinking.
Well, it worked in the Amana colonies for a century.
It doesn't scale.
Well, the problem, yes, Amana colonies don't scale. They were a small colony out in the Midwest where nobody was living, and they still exist. The Amana colonies are still there, but but it doesn't scale.
I mean, if you took enough time, it might scale, but it doesn't scale in the short term.
No.
I was going to say that book that Barry recommended, Misbelief by Dan Ariely. Yeah, he addresses the COVID misinformation, how that propagated, like a funnel. Yeah. So yeah, I got it on Kindle. So
He's a good guy. I actually met him in person. He was at the Media Lab back in the 90s as I guess a grad or post-grad student. Forget. I think I actually attended his thesis defense, if I remember right, back in the 90s. But I was always very impressed by him. And then he, as you know, went off to, I think, Duke University, where he's a professor of applied psychology or something like that.
yeah. So the concept of misinformation, I mean, for certain people, they'll never understand. Some people, you could get them to a certain point and you could question their beliefs. But who decides what the truth is there, if it can't be proven in system X, that's you can't just derive it mathematically. Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
No. I'm not willing to give that up so easily. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot say, oh, you can't prove this, therefore I can believe whatever I want. There's a big spectrum between those two statements. And this statement that you cannot know truth ultimately and absolutely, that's a dangerous thing to agree to. That is actually very, very bad practice, because that's what allows sloppy thinking. That's what allows politics and power grabs. That's what allows, power influence, as opposed to seeking the truth. Seeking the truth is not, it's not necessary to require absolute truth in order to seek the truth. And I think that in order to actually value truth, that is a compass. That's a North Pole. That's a direction that can be set. This goes back to the story about, if you take all the 2, 3, 4, 5,000 religions that have existed in time, you could destroy any of those books and cultures and practices and whatever. And yeah, religions would come back, but they would come back differently. If you take science and destroyed all the books and all the, labs and all the theories and all the whatever, and you let humanity rebuild that again, it would come back pretty much the same. That's the difference. So we cannot let this, oh, you cannot believe you cannot prove that's true in any absolute sense. That's bullshit and that's bullcrap. And we cannot tolerate that kind of thinking. Over.
That's a different perspective also, that's behind every action there's a positive intention. The people that created this information has an intention, they benefit from it. So the question is, what is the benefit for them? Can we give them the benefit without telling them to stop creating the misinformation? That would be one way to deal with it.
No, you cannot give it to them, because what they want is power.
I understand. I'm just telling you, they want power, so they are not going to stop creating. So you destroy this misinformation. Number one, they create the number two, number three, number four, and five. That's not enough. This is what we call a new way to, ban books now. Instead of banning books, I have no way to stop you from distributing the book electronically. So I'm going to create 10,000 books that are similar to this one, so that you have no idea which one is the one that you should be banning.
Well, that's why I think Barry was correct. The vaccine against that is education. We have to get people to be able to think and think clearly and to understand how, this statement supports that statement. And if you actually invalidate this, then now you have to question that. Okay.
Yeah, the problem with that is that we have a remote control on the thing. If you don't like one channel, you listen to the song for 3 words, you flip the channel. So instant gratification is too slow for the people.
That was also systemic and intentional. Let them eat cake, right? Entertain the masses. Keep them stupid. Keep them dumb. That was also intentional.
Bread and circuses.
Yep.
Yeah. In retrospect, it was obvious and it was done extremely well. Just give people what they want because they're lazy and they don't want to think. That's the downfall of civilization. Not everybody's out there trying to, kill their next meal. The meal's too easy. It's just automatic. Their lives are not threatened. They can get by with stupidity and dumbness.
I kind of disagree with your perspective of it, because from my perspective, human being, we always look for the more efficient way to do something. If you can drive somewhere, instead, you're not going to walk, right? So it's the conservation of energy.
I think you're right, but only a small percentage of people do that. Most of the people don't do that. And most of the people benefit from those small group of people that think that way.
But the most part of people require conservation of energy, so that they have this, instead of standing up from their comfortable couch, go to the TV and turn the knob. I want to be able to flip the channel. And somebody invented and make the money. So it's like, that's how it goes. If you can heat up your leftover with the microwave, you're not going to turn on your oven, preheat it to 350 and all that stuff.
Yep.
In fact,
none of that's inherently
we
bad.
take a pill. We take a pill of vegetables. Instead of taking the vegetables, we wash them and buy them from a grocery shop. We come in a can. Again, it's efficiency. We have no time to take out the bone from a drumstick from McDonald's. So chicken nuggets invented.
And in Star Trek, it's just turning energy into matter to make your food.
That's right.
It's that simple. Yeah.
We have no time if we have to work to exist.
Right.
That's right.
And right now, the society is created, so we have to work and spend our time in order to justify our existence.
We have to work
As
so that we don't have time to.
Fuller said, we don't need to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Star Trek vision was that we've solved hunger, we've solved all this, and we're on a different track now. But
And on the holodeck, we have everything we need.
Right, but until then, there are systematic inequalities or system problems that are affecting others, different people differently, and then you have economic issues, and that can escalate to war as well. Yeah.
That's why we do nothing until such time.
So, yeah, we got to just live our lives and do what's right.
Yeah.
We lose Sam?
Yeah, no, he's.
Oh, he turned his camera.
He's hiding from us. Okay. That's
So
fine.
maybe bandwidth issue. Maybe
grab food / dinner.
Okay. Yeah.
Remember, it's 8:30 p.m. where he is, or 9 p.m.
Yes. I think I'm gonna get going soon too.
Well, yeah, we're coming up on what is it?
It's been an hour and a half.
Still have another half an hour to go, don't we?
Yeah, 25 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna solve anything in 25 minutes, or
So the question is, what can you do to stop the missile from going over from one side to the other side?
Don't be there when it lands.
well, you could reprogram it in flight if you could hack their code.
take down the GPS satellite so there's no GPS to guide the missile.
Yeah, if we could just change all war to code, it's that's what it's becoming. There is cyber warfare, definitely.
Right.
That was one of the big disappointments of cyberspace, is that you had this great concept that cyberspace is going to be this wonderful new educational culture,
Yep.
nonviolent, and it isn't. It turned out to be just another place where corruption and nonsense and idiocy and baloney and crapola.
And when did that happen?
95.
95, you think, when it became commercial?
Yeah, basically what happened was in the early 90s, when the National Science Foundation was trying to figure out where do we go from here, when the NSF was funding the backbone,
Right.
the concept was the National Research and Education Network, NREN. And that was the proposal. It's going to become the NREN. And Congress didn't go along with that. Congress went along with the commercial concepts. We're going to make the internet go commercial. And businesses and commerce and all that stuff. And so in 1995, roughly, they threw away the NREN concept and they adopted the internet was going to go commercial.
And is that because they needed the commercial money to get all the pipes working right? Or
No,
no?
It's because the commercial enterprises lobbied Congress to authorize the ARPANET, Internet, NSFNet to not become NREN, but to become what it did become, which is the bubble.
Then they got AOL and all the other services on it, and
yeah. So, and with those of us who were promoting NREN, the National Research and Education Network, were very disappointed at this turn of events, and we thought this is the internet is not going to become the utopia, this wonderful thing that we envisioned. It's going to become crap. It's going to become the vast wasteland like commercial TV became.
Right.
Minnow.
Okay, interesting. So what could have been done at the time by the educators and scientists to counter that?
We tried and we failed utterly. We had no voice and no power and no influence, and the commercial interests, the big money interests, basically
they lobbied for it.
Drove public policy. Public policy was driven by the commercial interest.
So there wasn't a strong enough case to make for research and education, right? Yeah. So I mean, if you had, say, you had lobbyists, could you have made it? Could you have changed it? Well, I don't know, because the economy depends on the commercial interests.
I think money drove, but I think greed, commercial greed, drove public policy. Period.
Yeah, it's a new frontier. It's like a new Wild West to stake your claim and open your shop.
I mean,
Barry, you're the expert on learning. So is that the mankind going through the learning cycle? This is the convex version, the concave version of the curve that we must go through?
Well, basically, it's myopia. It's near. See, the thing is, people will go after what they can measure. And you can measure profit. You can measure money. You cannot easily measure the abstract things like culture, like the level of wisdom and knowledge and culture. These are abstract. They're difficult to measure. Dollar bills in the bank you can measure, and people will go after what they can measure, even if it's myopic, which it is.
You know, there are new measures like shapely value to capture some of the finer grain. I guess Nora Bateson has ways of evaluating all the non-financial benefits. So maybe in certain pockets you could have those kinds of networks, because now we're getting to the decentralized internet, and so you can have everybody make their own internet now.
Yeah, you have the dark web where you're trading drugs and weapons and crapola on the dark net, and then you can have the enlightened net, which is which is the PBS and the BBC of the world, and it's a niche. PBS and NPR and BBC is a niche.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sam just put in a chat. He's experimenting, trying not to speak. Oh boy. Trying
I put the audio in my AirPods.
Yeah. He's listening to
Oh,
it.
he's trying to eat so that he doesn't make noise
Yep.
while he's eating.
Yeah, so is our goal to try to provoke him to no. What's our goal now? Let him eat
I'll
or
just say bon appetit.
yeah, bon appetit.
Bon appetit.
Yep.
And then when he wants to take a nap, it's bon appetit.
Hey, the sad thing is, this is one of the most fun conversations, and the one I would love to finish. However, the food, I think they close soon, like in half an hour. So I
Yeah,
just
of
want to go
course.
get there.
Oh, you've got to go
What?
you've got to go buy food from the food department, buying department, selling department.
So you can't just walk outside and pick something from the ground and
No, no holodeck yet.
yeah, or shoot a cow or something. Not in India. So,
So there you have it. How are we doing for time here? It's
20 more minutes. Yeah, 20 more
20
minutes.
more minutes, or have we run out of things to talk about, or do we have more BS to traffic in?
my mind keeps going back to the ascent of man, because like the need for following a herd of animals that drove a lot of human migration. And the Fertile Crescent, he talks about that was an attractor, and that's where the city of Jericho was first built. So
You know what's interesting is whether or not in the 21st century we will bring back the extinct species, the woolly mammoth, and
yep.
I can't remember the names of all of them.
Mhm.
We will bring back some extinct species and maybe synthesize some species that are sort of imaginary species. And whether or not we will do this and whether we should do this is going to be kind of interesting about reconstituting or reinventing or reimagining species that used to exist or could have existed. That's kind of an interesting frontier that's going to have ethical issues and commercial issues and I don't know, policy issues. I don't really know, but it'll be an interesting frontier.
Mhm.
Should we bring back the woolly mammoth and whatever you name it, you know?
And based on the history, anything that makes money will get flourished. Anything that doesn't make money will get diminished.
Yeah. Well, there were some big cats. Some of the big cats that are either on the brink of extinction or maybe have gone extinct. You know, and I haven't really thought enough about it to have an opinion other than to realize that the possibility, potential is there, and the potential discussion is there. And with 170 countries around the world, there's no way that you can guarantee that some country won't do it.
Now, how about this? We bring back some dinosaurs, and like you take a continent like Australia, get everybody out of there, let the dinosaurs run there, and then you solve world hunger. You got bigger animals, you could feed more people.
Yeah, well, the dinosaurs themselves got to eat something. What do dinosaurs eat?
Yeah,
Smaller dinosaurs? I don't know.
each other, and then
Yeah.
the brontosaurus, they
But that's the other thing is synthetic photosynthesis, synthetic biology,
Yep.
where we can manage to take the solar photons, which is the source of energy, and biochemistry, and somehow engineer the construction of food that's more efficient than natural, land-based. And I mean, we do, freshwater farming of fish, and things like that. So the whole food revolution, synthetic food production, it's going to be an interesting frontier. Probably in 10, 15, 20 years, that'll probably be a big frontier. I don't know if any of us will still be alive to contemplate it. Maybe you will be. You're still pretty young, Eric. But I probably won't be around in 30 years.
You never know. You live to 120 easily.
Well, I'll tell you, if I live to be 90, I'll be doing as well as any of my ancestor relatives in modern relatives.
Yeah, you want the quality.
Grandfather made it to 89.
You could keep your brain and
Well,
have a
that's
good-
it. I can tell cognitive decline, even though it's slow. I can detect
Mhm.
cognitive decline. I can detect it.
Hmm.
So, muck unicorn.
Yeah, you're saying bring back imaginary animals. So,
Oh,
so
yeah.
we create a unicorn and McDonald's.
you know,
mark.
In the English translation of the Old Testament, the word unicorn appears in some English translations, and they identify an animal. I think it's an ibis, and an ibis actually is not a unicorn. It's got two horns which are parallel,
Mhm.
and if you see it in profile, it only looks like one horn, and it's a mountain.
Oh wow!
It's a mountain. I won't say goat because I think goat's the wrong species, but if you look up, I think an ibis, if I'm remembering right, but there is in Israel an animal that in profile looks like a unicorn from a distance. But in fact, head on, you see that there's two side-by-side horns. And that's the animal that they think was identified and translated as unicorn in some English translations.
It's the one that didn't get on the ark, right? According to the movie.
Doesn't need to.
Wow.
But always a unicorn, you always think of always picture on the side. You never have a picture on the front, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but sure, I mean, I can see, synthesizing creatures that are dramatically different from any that currently exist. I mean, we've been making hybrid plants, and I suppose maybe even hybrid animals. I don't know if that quite counts, but certainly plants.
Selective breeding. We've been
Selective breeding. I mean, the
horses.
And, I mean, fox and wolves and horses and whatnot. So yeah, we've been doing selective breeding and crossbreeding.
Yeah.
The lion and the what's the cross between a lion and tiger? A liger or a tigon or something. There's some kind of a cross between a lion and a tiger. Two ways to do it, male and female. And you can look up liger or tigon or whatever the hell they call them.
Okay.
And, I'm not sure if they occur naturally, if they're bred. I'm not quite sure the story, but there are examples of them.
I was thinking about the one that makes a lot of money would be panda that doesn't need bamboo shoot synthetically, so you can have a panda that can be anywhere, any weather, and doesn't need special food and attract a lot of
eat old cardboard and old newspapers.
Yep. If they can have that panda,
Yeah,
that would be good.
but
Get your food.
And look at pets. I mean, cats and dogs. I mean, cats and dogs have been bred. Look how many different exotic species of cats and dogs. What do you got there, Sam? You got you're in the restaurant now. I guess he's in the restaurant or the cafe, or the cafe or whatever it is. There's no food on his plate though.
Yeah. Ordering.
Yep.
It's
got pictures in the
Oh wow. Yep.
He need a Google Glass so he can talk and watch a screen at the same time without
Can't tell if that's half in English and half in what's the name of the Hindi? Is that the name of the language that it would be in?
There's so many. There's 7 national language in India.
Well,
depending on which part of India, he get different language. Hindi is only one. Hindi is southern India.
Southern India.
This is a Middle Eastern restaurant in the actual same building. And they have very good kebabs and tandoori prawns, so I'm going to go for that.
That's a little garbled. I didn't get all the words, neither did Otter.
This is where gobble, yeah.
It doesn't matter. I mean, I get the idea. I get the sense of what he's talking about, but
Tandoori prawns and some filet spears. Kebabs.
Kebabs.
Kebab.
Kebabs. Oh, kebabs. Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I didn't get kebabs.
Oh, did we get a summary from previous meetings? Or is that just emailed to the host or to whoever ran the
Oh,
meeting?
that reminds me, Sam. Last weekend, I don't remember if it was Saturday or Sunday, but one of the episodes last weekend, I did the recording on my local hard drive. And when I zipped it up, it was 3 gigabytes, which was just barely small enough to upload to Google Drive. So my Google Drive has got like this much vacant space left for email. And I can't upload anything else until you download whichever one that I uploaded a
Just leave that
week
there,
ago.
okay? No, no, but could I still keep this plate? Okay, thank you.
Hmm.
No, I'm just by myself. Sorry about that. I'll turn my audio on.
I'm not sure if he heard me. He was talking to the waiter.
Sorry, I'm gonna download the 3 gig, but I can do that tomorrow. The hotel bandwidth is not that great, but I'll do that from the office tomorrow.
All right. So let me know when it's downloaded and then I can erase it because there's just basically no more room on my Google Drive.
Yeah, send me an instruction also. Otherwise, I still have about 2 or 3 episodes that I haven't uploaded to you guys. So I have it on my local drive. So send me the instruction.
And that was my complaint about the video of my band. Like I used an iPad for one angle and that turned into a 10 gigabyte file. Yeah, and then the other one was on iMovie. And then when I tried to just edit, after editing, I tried to render it and it ran out of space, but didn't tell me. And then, yeah, it was just
Your
weird.
video was fine though. I watched it just before
Yeah.
the session.
Yeah, I finally got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to clean up a whole bunch of stuff before I
Yeah.
could get it to render.
I
Yeah.
mean, there wasn't much to watch. You're standing there with your back to the camera and
Right.
not a whole lot to see, but sure, you know.
Yeah, but I did the switch of angles to see
The
the
only
singers.
suggestion I would make is on some of the songs, just put the lyrics in down in the doobly-doo.
Yeah, okay.
Because some of the songs I sort of knew, some of them I didn't know the lyrics.
Yeah, it's saying,
Sena, everybody knows Sena, which does it even have a meaning? Does Sena even have a meaning?
The way I interpret it is, hey girls, get dressed and go see the soldiers. Maybe one of them will marry you.
Okay. But yeah, one of them, I don't know if it was Yiddish or whatever. I couldn't make out the lyrics. I couldn't recognize any of the words. And so, you know,
yeah, the Yiddish one, yeah, that was a parody done by the Klasmatics.
oh, okay.
So, yeah.
But not a big deal, but
Yeah, I understand.
it's nice to have lyrics where you can't recognize the songs.
Right. Yeah, cool. Okay.
So it's a quick summary of what we talked about today. He says that Sam said that this is one of the most exciting conversation we have. So because of the big episode happening in Israel, and that triggers a big conversation because we are passionate about it.
Life, the universe, and everything.
Yeah.
Number 42.
Well, and sustainable cultural practices. And I hate to say it, but our species has not been very sanguine about adopting sustainable cultural practices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's what's in it for me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's in it for me is that our grandchildren may not have much of a future, which is not in it for me.
And we keep spending money. We cannot stop, spending money, and then we're digging a bigger and bigger hole.
Right.
Yeah, we make up the money out of thin air so that your great grandchildren will pay it off.
I doubt we have to pay out because we have the biggest guy, and who's going to come and ask us for money?
It's the interest that'll erode the purchasing power, so that your just prices will keep going up.
Yeah.
Give myself a refill here.
Actually, I'm going to get going. But,
all right, sounds good.
Yeah, you could continue. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Eric.
Yes,
Bye.
yeah.
Oh,
I was going to say to you, Barry, if you get more useful and whatever you want to call that explanation from quantum computer or quantum theory, I'll be very interested to see what I miss, and if it anything that helps you to understand it better, because I'm still in the blur state.
just before today's session, I was watching Sabina Hassenfelder, her current Science Without the Gobbledygook episode this week. She reviewed the last 2 or 3 years of advances in quantum computing. There's basically 4 fundamental technological approaches, and she reviewed the 2 classical ones and the 2 newest ones, photonic and the hell's the other one? Topological. There was a couple of new approaches which I hadn't heard of, but it's a 20-minute video that Sabina Hassenfelder just put up on YouTube with her review of the current status of, and I should tell you, it's not terribly sanguine. The number of qubits is modest. The duration in which they remain entangled is very brief, a few microseconds, in some cases a few seconds. And so the amount of computing that you can pull off before they become decoherent, and with the number of qubits that you can get, and running these things at millikelvin cold temperatures, it's not terribly encouraging. And the quantum advantage, which is that they're slightly faster than conventional computing. Well, she had one episode or one claim where it was much, much faster than conventional computing. And the Chinese turned around and did the same computation in conventional computing. Instead of 3.5 minutes, was 5 minutes, like big deal. And it's not even an interesting application.
My next stage is about how do you construct a quantum computer. That will be, I'm interested in that, because if I reverse engineer the construction of a quantum computer, I can perhaps help me to understand how the hell quantum computer could be useful.
Well, my feeling is that way back when Richard Feynman proposed the concept, he said, if you want to do the mathematics of quantum mechanics, what you want to do the mathematics in hardware, not in software. So he says, if you want to compute the behavior of a quantum mechanical system, just make a quantum mechanical system in hardware, and it computes itself. Wow. So basically, he said, all it's good for is computing the mathematics of itself. And there aren't that many applications which are terribly interesting.
I mean, to me, what you just say is sort of like reminds me of playing a music from CD versus cassette or anything magnetic materials, because the fidelity, you don't chop off any frequency sampling.
Yeah. So I have never been very sanguine about quantum computing, partly because the number of applications it's any good for is very narrow. And among those narrow applications, there's hardly any that are of any general interest except to compute the behavior of quantum mechanical systems. In other words, it's a self-model. And the notion that computing something in hardware is faster than software, well, yeah, but it's only for a very narrow set of applications.
Yeah.
It's not for general computing.
Yeah.
But go look up Sabina Hassenfelder's.
Yeah, I got it. I subscribed to her channel. I just didn't get to her yet.
Yeah. It was just within the last couple of days or two or whatever. I don't know.
Right. Would you agree with my how do I say, my explanation of the layman language of what we call that, layman language explanation of quantum computer? So this is how it goes. If you have to make, it's sort of like mathematics. You have a calculator that has, what I call like multiplication symbol, and that key was off. That was or disabled. So you want to multiply 1,000 by 1,000, right? So if you don't have the multiplication, you gotta add 1,000 to 1,000 1,000 times. right? So that's take 1,000 cycle to get that data. But now I enable the multiplication symbol into the keyboard now. I mean the calculator now. Now you can do 1,000 by 1,000 in one keystroke. I mean one cycle computer, right? So you can get it very faster. Quantum computer is sort of like that. With that, the operator, but the trouble with that is sort of like another example I give is a similar thing is like I want to make a cookie that looks like teddy bear. I use my hand to do it, but now because I found in the woods in the jungle somewhere that they have a shape that is inside that look like a teddy bear. All I do is put the dough in there and I slam it. I can make a teddy bear in one split of a second. So quantum computer sort of like I need to go to the jungle and find a piece of wood that looks like I want to make a cookie that looks like a monkey. I'm looking for the wood. Until I can find that wood, I cannot make monkey yet. I can only make the teddy bear that I just found just now or something like that. When you say just now, it matches exactly what I was thinking about because it has a very narrow application because I only found whatever the woods, the mold that allowed me to make the cookie that I was making quickly. Something along the same line. Does it make sense what I'm saying? I'm speaking too fast. Freeze, frozen. Are you there? Can I hear you? Okay, I'm back. You're muted. I can hear you now. No, you're muted. You're muted.
My computer froze and I had to manually push the button.
Understood.
Start
I
it.
expected that. So
Yeah, I don't know if it's a fluke or it's because I upgraded to Sonoma, if that's an element. Because this is the computer I upgraded to Sonoma, but I've never had it freeze well, I'll say never. Because they do freeze sometimes, but if that's a recurring thing, then it's conceivable it's connected to Sonoma. But we'll see. I'm not going to get too excited about it
yeah.
as it recurs. But the problem with quantum computing is that the mathematics of quantum mechanics is probabilistic because you cannot observe the dynamics of things that are happening in attosecond time frames and Fermi-sized, physicals. So you basically all you can model is distributions. You can't see the exact details. It's like when you roll the dice, you know, you can't watch the dice roll in flight. You can just basically say, well, here's all the ways it could have landed. And the notion of knowing something only in terms of a probability distribution, it's not a new idea. I mean, thermodynamics, you can't see every single molecule of a gas. You can only see the statistics, the average and the variance of the energy levels and the pressure. And these are all statistics. And the notion that you can only see the probability, it's not a new idea. But people who are not familiar with probability think that the probability characterizes the system. No, it characterizes your limited state of knowledge of the details of the system. The details are inaccessible. And you know, in communication theory, you have the Nyquist-Shannon sampling theorem, that if something is happening real fast and you're trying to record it, you have to have your recording system running twice as fast as the thing is changing, and you have to be able to measure small changes at a quantized level. And if you don't, it's a blur. If you're recording too slow or with not enough resolution, then what you're seeing is a blur. It's not that the thing is a blur, it's your recording is a blur because your recording mechanism is running slow.
Yeah.
Problem with quantum mechanics is that you can't observe things with that level of precision in real time. You can only see the average distribution at the end of the story.
So there's no way to troubleshoot it then.
Exactly. I mean, you roll the dice and you say, oh, geez, the dice came up snake eyes instead of 12. Somewhere in there, you know, was one little perturbation where it landed on a 1 instead of a 6. Okay. You can't see that. All you can see is this is a probability. You know, you can say, oh, if I just had another dyne of energy, a dyne of force, you know, in this direction, you know, would have flipped to a 6 instead of a 1. Forget it. I mean,
if I were to take a video of the dice rolling at a high frequency, that I can see how it have a tendency, I can see the pattern of it, I might be able to do something about the dice and shift off a little bit on the right corner between the 6 and the 5, so that the whatever.
You could say, oh yes, if I had just had a little bit more or a little bit less energy or direction or whatever, but forget it. I mean, you're talking about the Shannon-Nyquist sampling and the control at that level of 17 decimal. Can you control something to 17 decimal places? I don't think so.
I see. So that's quantum computer, the way you understand it.
Quantum computers is basically you can't see anything at that level of detail and precision and speed. You know, attosecond, you know, electron is motion of, and in 1 attosecond, it's gone from here to there around the nucleus of the atom. You're just not. You can't observe anything with that precision of frequency, time frequency, and spatial frequency.
There's one example they constantly use is about the maze, right? If you're familiar with the example they give, sort of like, okay, with the traditional computer, you have to compute all the path for the maze to for the answer to the maze, right? But with the quantum computer, you will compute all the path at the same time, so that you can get the result pretty faster. But based on what the example you gave about 3.5 minutes versus 5 minutes or something, that's not the case at all.
No, I think that's a misconception. It's basically going to compute one of an astronomical number of possible cases, and you get one outcome out of all the many. It's not computing all of them. It's only going to reveal one of the possible cases at the end of the story. You don't know which one it's going to be. It's going to be one of them.
So the example they give about maze example, that's totally misconception altogether.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Sounds good. All right, it's 10:08.
Yeah.
You get your bus tomorrow. Enjoy.
Yeah. So because I froze, I don't know that I saved the chat today. I don't recall if I saved the chat before I froze, so I may not have a
Let
copy
me
of it.
see here.
But if you save the chat, since you didn't freeze, you can save the chat and put it up on the
How do I save the chat? I don't see. I have a button that.
down at the very bottom of the chat. There's a little almost invisible 3 dots.
I don't have the 3 dots on my chat.
On the chat, when you bring up the chat, down at the bottom where it says type messages here,
Yep. But
and then underneath that,
oh,
there
okay, got it, got it.
there's a very very faint thing, and the third one is the 3 dots. It says
I say more.
and if you click the more, it'll say save chat.
I got it. Save chat. Show in the folder.
And then you can upload that to the Collaborology
Got it. I'll
Facebook,
do that.
because I don't believe I saved it.
I got it. I got it. That's good.
So
If you guys send me the instruction on how to upload to Sam, I will be able to do that. I have 3 episodes.
all you need to do is that, well, first of all, you need to zip up, because there's four files. There's the text file and the
Transcript.
whatever. There's 4 files. So you zip them. You put them into one zip file.
Okay.
And then when you send an email, you attach the zip file to the email to Sam at gmail.com or wherever it is. And then it will just transfer it up to your Google Drive
Right.
for him to download off of your Google Drive, as long as you've got
Plenty of space. I have plenty of space. I pay extra money for it. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
good.
So just zip it up, just tell it to make a zip
Okay.
file,
Got it.
and then ship that to him as an attachment.
Okay. As soon as I find some time to do that, I'll watch the Beans video also. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Okay. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.